All right, hello and welcome to Bigskybits. I am your host Colby, and today we got a lot to go over. There's been a lot going on in the markets with Bitcoin. Well, shoot, the markets in general. So, before we get into that, please, if you got time, go over to my website, bigskybits.com. There's some articles. I'm about to post up a few more today or tomorrow. It'll have some of the previous episodes on there. It'll also have some links to some other content. So go check it out. Leave a like, subscribe to the videos if you enjoy the content. Help a brother out. That's all I'm asking for. All right, with that, we're going to go into today's biggest issue, and Bitcoin has dropped rather hard. If we look at Bitcoin's graph for the last 24 hours, you can see us sitting up here at about 107 early in the morning, late at night. And ever since we got into the November 4th, right around November 4th, we just start cratering down from 107 all the way to a low. On here, they're only saying right at 100. I have a few people on other exchanges or people using other data that said we did briefly dip below 100. Of course, it's all going to matter on the exchange or where your analytical site is pulling data from. So take that all with a grain of salt, but Bitcoin saw a pretty good drop in the last little bit. And if we move out on scales, let's go out to the month. It's just been a slow and constant dump from around 125. And I mean, the chart's just not looking super great. We are approaching a lot of this resistance right here, right at 100. Hopefully we can get a good bounce. I am not super optimistic. I still think there is a possibility in the cards to go down to mid 70s. I kind of have a feeling once we break below 90s, it could be a free for all the way down to the high 70s. But then around the high 70s, I do think some people will be trying to enter in before the bounce and try to get in. So take it all with a grain of salt. I do not really do a ton of technical analysis. I know a little bit about it, watch a little. If you want good technical analysis, I do like the Financial Summit with Tone Vase. Take everything with a grain of salt, especially if Matt is presenting it. I like Tone's more conservative approach a hair better, but to each their own, and it matters what your situation in life is. So those are some good resources. And of course, there's a ton of other good resources out there. As you've probably witnessed going through the crypto sphere lately, most of the influencers have switched from shilling anything that gave them a few bucks to becoming closer to Bitcoin maximalists. And that's a good, refreshing thing to see. I mean, shit, just the last cycle, you saw every large influencer shill whatever, and it might be the next thing to beat Bitcoin. It might be the next best thing to change the world. And that narrative drastically changed to most people understanding that these other projects are merely gambles or scams attempting to get your Bitcoin. So with that, everything, we just had a huge drop. We're still in this range. I really feel like we need to turn around right around now to have a lot of positivity, or I could see us going down for the next couple months. Some people think that this is just an attempt at big institutions and big players trying to shake out some of the paper hands. And as I've said in past, it's way easier to be a paper hand when you don't have much conviction in it. And it's easy not to have much conviction in things when you're only in it for the capital gains. I got into Bitcoin because of the use cases. Buttcoiners come ask about what those use cases are. I'd be happy to explain it to you because Bitcoin has many use cases that do separate it from traditional finance. do make it better than precious metals, do make it better than quite a few of the other assets that people tend to hold or think will help them through financially tough times. Now, are we still in the early phases and Bitcoin is extremely volatile? 100%, and I don't expect that to change for a good decade. So, I mean, the volatility has been coming and slowing down, and there were even phases in the last 6 months where Bitcoin was less volatile than the stock market. I don't know if the stock market's the best thing to compare to. We're going to see massive volatility within the stock market, I believe, in the next 1 to 3 years. I mean, I think we're on the cusp of it right now. Shit, today could be the day that's signaling the downturn. Anyway, I just wanted to bring up this because a few people are saying it's institutions and outside entities and governments trying to manipulate the price to buy. And if you look at some of the Wyckoff accumulations, which is some technical analysis trying to make patterns out of things, it can show how some of these big institutions will accumulate things, mark it up, have this midway area, and then we'll see a big downward phase before they start picking up and accumulating again. So it's interesting to be aware of where Bitcoin is going. Who's buying, who's selling? Is it whales or are they long-time holders? Because as a long-time holder, I can attest to the fact that some people are ready to sell. A lot of people I've known from the early days, they're ready for their big house, their permanent house. They're ready for their fun cars. They're maybe even a small yacht. I don't know any of the people with the big yachts. I'm not in those circles. But, and the only person I know with who ever had a big yacht, that was because of insurance companies and making bank off insurance, which is a whole nother scam we could get into at some point. But just looking at the basic psychology of a market cycle that someone brought up here on Reddit, you can see, I mean, the optimism, the belief, these are normal feelings during a market cycle, and a lot of people miss out. And that's why dollar cost averaging into an asset you believe is very important. And once you feel like we're on that upward cycle, dollar costing out of that asset, if your goal is to make more fiat money, is also another very important piece of the puzzle. So, going off this, did we see the market top? I would put that possibility at about 30%. And this is just personal opinion. Most of the technical analysis I've seen suggests that we'll probably go lower. I am still of the boat that we'll see a blow off top and we'll see a big explosion of growth and that this is a shakeout. Could I be 100% wrong? Absolutely. And that's why you take a structured, smart approach to how you get into assets and how you get out. Because humans are irrational creatures and we'll place emotion on things that we should stay objective to. I'm obviously going to place more emotion into Bitcoin because I personally have seen the benefits of it and I believe it can help humanity. Could I be wrong? 100%. Could this experiment totally prove to be nothing more than a financial experiment getting humans to think in different terms than fiat capital? That could be the case. I don't believe so, and that's why I continue to preach the good word of Bitcoin, because I don't want us to keep repeating these same mistakes. We've done this for millennia of humanity, putting people into power, allowing them to have complete control over the monetary system. The rich help the rich get wealthier, while the poor fall into a further desperation until the desperation reaches a boiling point and we chop off heads. So the proletariat might be getting close to chopping off heads. I've heard more calling of chopping off heads. And this is all just rhetoric. I'm not actually saying, I mean, the French did actually chop off heads. But this is just an analogy for where we could be heading. And some people are suggesting civil wars on the brink. I don't think any of this is true. I think when you talk to the average, at least here in America, the average person is of a similar belief that they just want to live a good life and enjoy some of their hobbies and watch the world go forward. We want to help our neighbors. And as I've said in the past too, I think the helping with neighbors goes to what Bitcoin stands for and getting rid of government's ability to pick and choose winners. We as a society need to do the due diligence and not offload it onto this arbitrary government institution that passes vague and blanket laws that affect people without really knowing the members of the community and how best to serve or help them. So with that in mind, I just think there's plenty of room for discussion. And again, please reach out. I need people to leave some comments on the discussion and let me banter back and forth with you. I'm going to do some live ones in the future. I need to get up to 50 subscriptions before I can get live. So that's on me to get this onto more social media and different things. The other big thing I wanted to talk about before we end this episode kind of early is how the financial system regarding Bitcoin is drastically changing. In the last year mainly, last 2 years though, you could say the lending opportunities against your Bitcoin or over collateralized loans against the Bitcoin are becoming numerous. Coinbase now is offering one. I think someone said it's 7.25%, 7.5%, somewhere around the 7% range. And after talking to some conventional bank loans, now sure, these were for commercial loans, so commercial loans are slightly different, a little higher usually. A lot of those loans were starting around 6.5%. So the difference is we're talking maybe 1%, 2% on the Bitcoin loans. And I understand 1-2% adds up to a ton. It's very interesting that a product as new as Bitcoin is already getting these opportunities in the financial world. This is allowing a two-pronged effect. It's allowing some of those early holders, like we were talking about, access to fiat money without risking too much of their Bitcoin and getting some of those things, a new car, a house, the things they want in life without having to part with their Bitcoin. Now, could this create some scenarios that are super harmful to those individuals? If Bitcoin goes down, they're unable to keep their LTV where it needs to be. The loan to value ratio, a lot of these companies need it to be at least 50, 60%. This is all a new marketplace, but the main takeaway here is that the world of lending has been very gatekept. I own quite a few properties and I have talked to many types of lenders. And I can tell you that lending in the lending game is not very favorable to younger investors or people that are trying to build up their nest egg. If you don't come with a lot of capital, the whole lending process can be very brutal. Even with a lot of capital, a lot of properties, a lot of history, a lot of these conventional banks and the process they make you go through is quite daunting, and I like the possibilities of what Bitcoin can bring. Now, the big difference is Bitcoin, you're an over-collateralized loan where a lot of these other conventional loans or commercial loans, I'm putting up a lot less equity. There's a lot less backing it, so I understand the risk. But because of that, we should see these Bitcoin loans actually get their loan rates get lower than conventional loans because you're putting up that collateral behind it and there's a lot less risk. So I do think those days are shortly on the horizon, the next 3-4 years. And I think we're going to see a lot more of these loans. Now, a lot of influencers and other people in this space will warn you this is against Bitcoin's ethos, warn you that this is against what Bitcoin stands for, that this is a way they're going to steal your Bitcoin. Look at FTX, look at Voyager, look at all these other programs that promised you yield or money on your Bitcoin. And this is similar. You're getting a loan against your Bitcoin. You're getting some sort of yield against it or capital to play with. And I would just like to say to those haters that Bitcoin actually fills all the gamut of financial opportunities, from good to bad. If people are trying to create predatory loans, Bitcoin can facilitate that. If people are trying to do bad actions, Bitcoin can facilitate that. Bitcoin is for your enemies. But Bitcoin is also for you. When your enemy becomes your own government, when your enemy becomes the very financial institutions you once trusted, when you have become an enemy by these people, Bitcoin is still there for you. And I think as we get closer and closer to this reality, I think the truth will set in for people. And I honestly think we will come to this understanding that Bitcoin can fill all these needs. If I want a social credit score, if I want a credit score in general, there could be closed Bitcoin networks with addresses tied to identities, to a whole centralized financial infrastructure built around Bitcoin, as well as a completely other financial system that is decentralized, anonymous, allows you to partake in Bitcoin as it was meant to be at the same time. Both can be true. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. Bitcoin can facilitate all of these financial ideas that we currently have, all of the financial ideas that people are coming up with, and so much more that hasn't even been theorized. And as I was talking to one of the bankers, I wanted to let her know that Bitcoin is the future for these bankers. They haven't often done the research, though the difference in how they receive it is night and day. I've talked to banks. I talked to my first bank about Bitcoin in 2016, again in 2020, 2020, and again yesterday. And the difference in their attitudes has been quite astounding. Just the change. Before, you were kind of thought of as just an outsider. There's no real information here. We've already done our due diligence. We know everything about it. It doesn't match with our financial goals. They just had a litany of different excuses and reasons why it wouldn't work. And with a lot of the legal clarity that this administration has created and how the financial landscape has changed with regards to Bitcoin, I think they're seeing it as a more viable product. And so in the future, I think we're going to see a lot more of this. So stay tuned and pay attention to what are the financial tools doing with Bitcoin? How are they evolving? And how is this going to soon affect the average person? And a lot of people think investing $500, $1,000 today isn't going to be life-changing money. And I seriously doubt that. I honestly think $1,000 today can still turn into life-changing money compared to fiat. As the fiat standard drops to nothing and Bitcoin replaces that, and especially on the international stage, I think you might be shocked what $1,000 in Bitcoin are. What would that be today? 0.01 of a Bitcoin roughly? What 0.01 of a Bitcoin will be, and what is that? That's about 1 million sats. What 1 million sats will be able to buy you in the future. Am I saying it's going to buy you a mansion down in Argentina or in Brazil or some nice place in South America? Probably not. Could it buy you a nice apartment somewhere? I think that's a real possibility. Could it buy you a car? I think that's a very real possibility. So life-changing money all depends on what you mean by life-changing. Is it a vehicle to get you from point A to point B and do your job? That could be life-changing. Other people think it's retirement money, say fuck you money. I just don't believe in even those premises. Life is not about money. There isn't a point where I get fuck you money and I don't want to do anything. I live my life to do things, to create, to build, to meet people, to have these experiences. And I hope you enjoy these experiences. So if you like this, like and subscribe. I have more content coming out this week. We're going to do a few shorts. Try to promote this, get up to that 50 subscriber number so we can start doing some live videos and get stuff out there. I probably could have done a few video games, Magic Arena or something, and got that 50 viewers, but we'll see. We're going to stick to the Bitcoin. We're going to stick to getting people. I know I'm going to have to probably reach out, and I want to do some outdoor stuff because I live in one of the most gorgeous places in America. And I want to show people this and possibly reach a different crowd that's not just Bitcoin centric. And with that, again, thank you for coming to Big Sky Bits. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe and have a wonderful day.